Welcome to the second part of the Hunger Games analysis, as I will go chapter by chapter through the events that takes place in Catching Fire. Please hit that like button, subscribe, comment below for more creative content on this channel.
Chapter 1 Victor's Village 12 houses for the victors in the districts. Katniss went into Haymitch's house. Katniss dumped icy cold water onto Haymitch's head. He jumps up, kicking his chair behind him and holding a knife. Katniss sees President Snow. Chapter 2 Snow first says to Katniss, "I think we'll make this whole situation a lot simpler by agreeing not to lie to each other." Snow tells Katniss about the moment whenever she pulled out the poisonous berries in the arena. People in the capital were well convinced, but not everyone in the districts fell for Katniss's act. In several of the districts, however, people viewed her little trick with the berries as an act of defiance, not an act of love. Then Snow brings up about the uprising. Snow wants Katniss to convince him. Chapter 3 Quarter Quell occurred every 25 years. Katniss and Peeta begin their victory tour, going to District 11. Someone whistles Rue's four-note Mockingjay tune. It was an old man. His eyes met Katniss. After, every person in the crowd presses the three middle fingers on their left hand against their lips and extends them to Katniss. A pair of peacekeepers dragging the old man to the top of the steps, forcing him to his knees before the crowd. Chapter 6 Katniss and Peeta are introduced to Plutarch Heavensbee, the 75th Hunger Games game maker. Plutarch pulled out a gold watch on a chain from a vest pocket. He flips open the lid, sees his time, and frowns. He mentions it starts at midnight. Plutarch had run his thumb across the crystal face of the watch, and for just a moment, an image appears, glowing as if by candlelight. It's not a Mockingjay. There's a mob scene. The square packed with screaming people, their faces hidden with rags and homemade masks, throwing bricks. Buildings burn. Peacekeepers shoot to the crowd, killing at random. Chapter 7 There was a new head peacekeeper, Commander Thread. Chapter 8 Katniss throws herself directly between the whip and Gale. Haymitch appears and trips over a peacekeeper lying on the ground. Haymitch ignores him and pulls Katniss up to her feet roughly, his hand locked under her chin, lifting it. Peeta shows up in Katniss's defense, and a group of people to go to Katniss's house to get medically treated by Prim and her mother. Chapter 12 President Snow announces for the third Quarter Quell. As a reminder to the rebels that even the strongest among them cannot overcome the power of the capital, the male and female tributes will be reaped from their existing pool of victors. Katniss is going back into the arena. Chapter 13 Katniss tries begging Haymitch to be the male tribute to enter the arena to spare Peeta's life, though Peeta did the same thing except with the intention of protecting Katniss. If Katniss and Peeta are in the arena, Katniss and Haymitch are keeping him alive. Day of the Reaping, Katniss is called, and Haymitch, Peeta volunteers. No time for goodbyes. Chapter 14 Katniss's sole mission is to keep Peeta alive. They go over the victors they will go up against. Katniss and Peeta watch Haymitch's Hunger Games, which was twice the number of tributes. It also took place in the 50th Hunger Games, the second Quarter Quell. Chapter 15 Katniss meets Finnick. Finnick gets paid with secrets. Katniss says to Peeta they would lure you into their capital ways and you'd be lost entirely. This actually foreshadows something that might happen to Peeta. Chapter 16 Haymitch instructs Katniss and Peeta to 1. Stay in love. 2. Make some friends. These people are all experienced killers, no matter what shape they appear to be in, Hamish says. A force field separating the game makers from the tributes. And that's because Katniss shot an arrow at them. And that happened due to Katniss shooting an arrow at them the previous year. Katniss reports to Haymitch about her allies. Mags, knots, and bolts. And for the individual skills, Katniss did a dummy of Seneca Crane hanged. Chapter 17. Katniss says, to show them that I'm not more than a piece of their game. Katniss wears a wedding dress to the interview. Katniss's wedding dress when she's been transformed into a mockingjay. This also foreshadows something that happens later. Chapter 18. Haymitch's last words to Katniss and Peeta. Stay alive. Haymitch tells Katniss, remember who the enemy is. After Katniss entered the pod, peacekeepers came inside the launch room, beating up Stenner and taking him away. Chapter 19. Finnick becomes Katniss' ally, and eventually drags Max along with them. Chapter 20. Day 1. 8 dead, 16 alive. Katniss and her allies have hard times finding water. A silver parachute that had a spiral inside. They find a tree which had water inside until they refueled their hydration. The sound of the cannon goes off, then another victor died. The sound of the cannon goes off, then another victor died. The poisonous fog begins to emerge, and when Katniss touched it, it began forming blisters. Chapter 21. Mag sacrifices herself, going inside the poisonous fog so Katniss, Peeta, and Finnick could go on. Eventually, the fog has stopped, rising into the sky. The water removes the wounds, diminishing the pain too. Finnick had a hard time following Mag's death. Katniss, Peeta, and Finnick are under attack by some huge monkeys. The female morphling from District 6 throws herself, saving Peeta's life, as the monkey's fangs went into her chest. Chapter 22. Peeta calms the female morphling down, make her death rather peaceful. Day 1 update. 11 dead, 13 alive. Someone else gets killed as the cannon goes off. They see 3 covered in blood, Joanna, Beatty, and Wires. They thought it was rain. Joanna was stuck babysitting nuts and bolts for Katniss. Tick-tock. Lightning bolts hit the tree 12 times, midnight and midday. Katniss surveys the arena. It's a clock. Chapter 23. Each hour, a new horror begins. They go to the cornucopia of what weapons remain and how the arena is a clock. The reason Wire sings annoyingly is because in case of something bad happening. If the singing stops, they should get out, but if the air is too bad, it dies. Wire stopped singing. The couriers went on to attack them. The cornucopia starts spinning faster and faster. After they got off the cornucopia, Katniss heard a scream so familiar that she ran in the direction of the voice of Prim. Chapter 24. Calling Prim's name over and over again to realize that a Jabberjay was making the sound. Katniss trying to tell herself it wasn't real. Another voice, but Finnick takes a run towards it. Finnick screaming Annie over and over. Katniss tells Finnick it's only a Jabberjay. Jabberjays mock what they hear. Another voice, but this time Gale's. Then they try to run off until they spot Peeta, Joanna, and Beatty. There's an invisible barrier between them. The birds return, bringing more horror to Katniss and Finnick. The hour was over, but Katniss believes the Capitol is torturing Prim. Joanna says, "They can't hurt me. There's no one left I love." Another victor dead as the cannon goes off. Peeta mentions to Katniss that whatever deal she made with Haymitch, he made promises as well. And he says, "So I think we can assume he was lying to one of us." Haymitch knows which one is real. Peeta confesses to Katniss how different it would be if one of them lived on. Katniss confesses that she needs him. Katniss tries to imagine a world without the games and no Capitol. Day 2. 17 dead, 7 alive. Chapter 25. Katniss and Peeta plan to leave their allies after the careers are out of the way. Beetee rounds everyone and confirmed that they would go after Brutus and Nuberia, tracking them down. Beetee plans to run the wire from the tree to the salt water. Anything in contact with the water and the beach surrounding it will be electrocuted. Beetee wants Joanna and Katniss to take the coil all the way through the jungle. Peeta wants to go with them as a guard. Beetee declines it. As Katniss and Joanna were moving along, someone cut the wire. Katniss is on the ground and Joanna cuts her arm and tells her to play dead. The careers thought Katniss was dead, so they cleared out. Katniss drags herself until she gets back to her feet, trying to reach Peeta. Finnick appears trying to look for Joanna and Katniss. The cannon goes off. Katniss finds the cut wire and realizes that it's her way back to the lightning tree. Katniss finds Peeta yelling his name, drawing the attackers towards her. Finnick and Nuberia reach the lightning tree. Another cannon. "You just remember who the enemy is," Haymitch's last advice to her. Now Katniss remembers, ties the wire to the arrow. She rises, turning to the force field. She tilts her bow, letting her arrow fly. The lightning strikes as Katniss is thrown backwards to the ground. Chapter 27. A hovercraft is above Katniss as the claw picks her up. When Katniss regains some consciousness, she realizes she's inside on a padded table with tubes in her left arm. When she really wakes up, she figures out what's going on. Haymitch, Plutarch, and Finnick sit around a table. Haymitch explains to Katniss about the plan, which half of the victors were trying to keep Peeta and Katniss alive. Plutarch reasons to Katniss that she's the Mockingjay, and while she lives, the revolution lives. Katniss is the symbol of the rebellion. Peeta was picked up by the Capitol along with Joanna and Nuberia. Katniss sees Gale. Gale tells her that he got Prim and her mother out of 12, and that after the games, planes were sent dropping firebombs. Gale tells Katniss that there's no District 12.
Thank you for watching part 2, and see you in the next video.